What is up, everybody? Welcome to Beyond the Stats. Today's a beautiful Wednesday, actually, Wednesday afternoon here in Texas. I hope you guys are staying safe, staying clean, and surviving. At this point, this crisis is getting out of hand, and the only thing that we can do as people and concerned people is staying inside, staying quarantined, cleaning, washing your hands, just being overall a better person now in this day, because this whole virus is taking this whole world by storm. And hopefully you guys stay safe. Today, it's Wednesday afternoon. I just wanted to catch up on some news, give you guys my opinion on some of the things that are just being leaked, things that are just happening, things that have happened already, and just give you overall a sense of what's going on in the NFL world right now. Overall, this podcast is for all sports, not just NFL. As of right now, this is my main priority. Off season hitting, the draft coming up, so it's definitely something great to just talk about overall. But be ready for other topics in the future, depending on how you guys like it and how you guys enjoy this podcast. So I hope you guys are listening. Hope you guys share. Follow me on Instagram at BeyondTheStats, and let's just get started. Number one, I want to talk about the Eagles. Okay, the Eagles turned down DeAndre Hopkins. They had an option. Well, technically, they turned down the Houston Texans. They had the option to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. They said no. And I know that's insane. I know, especially coming from the Eagles, who, they just lost Nelson Aguilar. Not a major loss, because he did have a lot of drops, and he did lose them a lot of games. Not a lot, but just a few games that they weren't absolutely necessary of. So that's something, but it's a loss is a loss overall. They're I don't know how Alshon Jeffrey's gonna continue. He has been average while he's there. He does provide a security blanket. He is a big guy. I just don't think he has the burst or overall anything that's absolutely necessary for Carson Wentz to continue his trajectory upwards. So that's something that it's very on the rocks with. So I think that DeAndre Hopkins would have absolutely made a lot of sense going to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know most of you guys are like, why didn't they get him? They didn't. I don't think they believed that he deserved. They did the right thing for the players that they have drafted and they have had on their team for a while. Is it the right thing overall? I don't think so personally, but for them, I think it was an okay decision. It depends on how you look on it, but if you look at it from the Philadelphia Eagles perspective, it makes a lot of sense. So DeAndre Hopkins playing right now. He has 3 years left out of his 5-year deal. I believe his average is around like 12 million, 13 million, 11 million, somewhere around there per year. He's pushing for a mega deal. I mean, Julio Jones got north of 20 million already. So DeAndre Hopkins is really left behind on his deal that he signed 2 years ago. So he's definitely something that he should look into. So he's pushing for a mega deal. The Eagles just signed Carson Wentz to a huge, massive contract. They have Dallas Goedert, who they drafted a couple of years ago. They have Zach Ertz. They have, the defense. They have the offensive line. They don't have very many wide receivers that they're really looking into right now. Their receiver core was really bad last season. They still have Deshaun Jackson, so that's something good, something positive. But we don't know how he's going to fare. He did just get injured last season, so depending on how he comes back and how he's effective, he is getting up there in age, So it's definitely something to look into, keep an eye on. But I think that because they weren't going to commit the mistake of the Dallas Cowboys when they traded for Amari Cooper, and then they were at stake on whether they should sign him to a major deal or not. They eventually did, but you can definitely see how it affects other people. Now, the Cowboys made a mistake of not signing Dak Prescott a couple years ago. The Eagles didn't. So they already have their Carson Wentz, their franchise quarterback, signed, locked, and ready for the next foreseeable future. So I feel like they could have gotten away with more of getting, DeAndre Hopkins on their team, and then also finding a way to sign other players around him as well. But I definitely see where you're coming in. You bring in another player from another team, and then you sign him, 3 years, ahead of his contract expiration date, and you're going to give him a major contract. I definitely see how that can cause controversy in the locker room of the Eagles. But I still think it would have been the right thing to do. I think that the Eagles should have plunged and dealt with the outcome a little bit later. Otherwise, just letting him just go to the Arizona Cardinals. So the Arizona Cardinals gave up David Johnson and a few picks. I think they got a few picks in return. They absolutely got a steal, but they are going to lose a majority part of their cap when they sign DeAndre Hopkins to a major mega deal. I think the Eagles should have been the ones, especially giving the help that they have given Carson Wentz. It hasn't been that good. They got out, the tight end position is locked down and ready. Like that's for sure something that they have gone above and beyond for the Carson Wentz. But the wide receiver core is something that they should absolutely look into. Robbie Anderson was in the free agency. He just signed with the Carolina Panthers. I feel like he would have been a major asset for the Philadelphia Eagles. Stephon Diggs was on the trade block, but the Buffalo Bills beat him to it. I feel like the Buffalo Bills gave up a little bit too much. In my opinion, they should have traded for DeAndre Hopkins. They didn't. The Eagles had a chance to. They also didn't. So I think if you look at overall 2020 hindsight, I think that DeAndre Hopkins would have made a major addition. He's averaged more than 1,000 yards for his career, I believe, or damn close to that for sure. So definitely seeing how they need a wide receiver to accumulate the yards, accumulate touchdowns, help overall Carson Wentz and his trajectory upward. I think they should have definitely plunged with DeAndre Hopkins and then just hope for the best and try to mediate the locker room afterwards. Now, we saw, the controversy between Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, how that split up the locker room and how that really affected the locker room overall. Nick Foles was taken out of the equation. The locker room is still not fully steady. I think that DeAndre Hopkins would have tipped the locker room either way. So that's something that you should definitely think about. But I think he would definitely worth it. I think he would absolutely be worth everything that they do. And, going forward, giving the mega deal to him, making him the highest paid wide receiver. Because right now it's Amari Cooper. Does Amari Cooper deserve the mega deal that he signed? Absolutely not. I don't believe so. I've never seen a wide receiver quit on a team before until I saw Amari Cooper do it twice in 2 locations in 2 uniforms. So it's definitely something that you look at Amari Cooper and you look at DeAndre Hopkins. Who would you rather have? It has to be DeAndre Hopkins by far. He's played with worse quarterbacks. And his amazingness, his stats have maintained. So it's definitely something to look into. I feel like the Eagles, they missed out on an opportunity. I understand why they did not trade for him. But it's still a major miss in an opportunity getting DeAndre Hopkins to go to the Eagles. I think that would have changed the tides. The Cowboys, I think that they are going to be the same amount of average this upcoming season. They didn't change much. They lost a few players. They gained some few players. Nothing really changed. The key players are still there. They have, except for Travis Frederick. I'll get into that a little bit later. I don't want to talk too much about the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are just going to be average. The Washington Redskins, I feel like they're going to make a push, but I don't think they're going to make it a big enough push to dethrone the Eagles from the playoffs and make it to the playoffs overall. And the Giants are just a mess. They just signed a head coach with no experience whatsoever. Could I be wrong about the Giants? Absolutely. They have Daniel Jones. He did pretty good in the season that he played last season. Very little, but he still played pretty good. So you don't see them. They could come back. I don't see it. They have a horrible offensive line, so it's something that they should really look into. But the Eagles are possibly in one of the worst divisions in the NFL. Will that change this season? I hope so. I really want to see a competitive edge. But if the Philadelphia Eagles had traded for DeAndre Hopkins, it would have been over with. If Carson Wentz stayed healthy, with DeAndre Hopkins on each side, either side, I think that would have made a huge deal, and they definitely would have pushed them over the edge over the Cowboys, over the Redskins, over the Giants, and it would have been the de facto, playoffs for sure. Hopping in to another Eagle news, they just signed Nicole Roby Coleman to the Eagles. The Rams released him, and they cleared up $5 million. And if you guys don't really know who he is as a cornerback, he is the one who made that controversial hit in the NFC Championship against the Saints. And I'm pretty sure most of you guys know which hit I'm talking about. It was very controversial. It helped the Rams win the game overall. I think they would have had a better cornerback if they had gone for Logan Ryan. He's still out there, I believe, as a free agent. As of right now, I think he's still out there. He played with the Tennessee Titans. He did really good. And overall, I think that Nicole Roby Coleman really just got the spotlight on him when he made that controversial hit. He did sign a huge not a huge contract, but a pretty big contract after that season. So it's definitely interesting to see what he does for the Eagles, who have a depleted cornerback, overall. So I don't see it making a major impact. I definitely see it as an addition, overall. He's 5'9". He did pretty good. I don't believe that he's a major, player. I don't think that he's a great cornerback by any measures. I don't think he's a possibly good cornerback, maybe, depending on the season that he has. Of course, we have to wait and see. But I think that having Logan Ryan out there would have been a better option than Nicole Roby Coleman. Obviously, the price tag is different. But should they have plunged with Logan Ryan? I feel like they should have. He just came in with career-high tackles in the Tennessee Titans. I think he would have been a better addition. I'm really glad that they didn't go for Byron Jones. The Byron Jones went to the Miami Dolphins. Byron Jones, 2 picks in his whole career. That is something that you are wary of as a cornerback, as a highest paid cornerback in the NFL. You have to have some turnovers, and just seeing overall that he's only had 2 picks in a career, not the best sight. So it's definitely something to look into. The Eagles should still have, they still have to beef up that secondary. It's definitely interesting to see how they push it forward. They lost Malcolm Jenkins to the Saints. That's something interesting you have to look into as well. He was a captain, a veteran safety. So it's something interesting to keep in mind, especially when it comes to the Eagles secondary. I think that really hurts them, and I don't think that Nicole Roby Coleman, no offense to him, I think he's a great player, a great guy, but I don't think he's the necessary piece that the Eagles need at this moment specifically. Moving on, we have the Cam Newton. Cam Newton is officially a free agent. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, keep in sight. And I just want to go over some of the teams that definitely should be considering Cam Newton. I don't. It's very controversial because you also have Jameis Winston out there. And although Jameis Winston did throw for 30 interceptions last season, which is just insane and should not, it shouldn't be a stat. He shouldn't have played long enough to actually throw 30 interceptions, but he did. And he did score 32 touchdowns. So you have to look into, he threw for over 5,000 yards. If you eliminate the turnovers, I think that should absolutely be a better option. Picking Jameis Winston over Cam Newton. Cam Newton, the only thing that's really hurting him is his health. Can he be healthy? Because he hasn't been healthy for a couple years. Some teams that should consider getting Cam Newton, I'll just name off the list and just give you my reasoning why. We have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I know they are set on getting Joe Burrow. I think that if they're able to get Cam Newton either on a really good deal, I think that he would be a really good backup. We don't see primarily good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks play their first rookie year. They usually get battered, they usually get beaten, and they usually take some time. Patrick Mahomes took a year off, not a year off, but as a backup to Alex Smith. So that's something definitely to keep in mind, that maybe you should not rush into putting your rookie quarterback out there. So definitely Cam Newton to the Bengals. If you get a good deal on him, I think that's definitely something that you should consider. especially giving Joe Burrow the time that he needs, the reps that he needs as a backup to understand fully the game, how Cam Newton addresses the team, how he, talks to the coach, how he talks to the NFL. It's just something that would absolutely help Joe Burrow for sure. Now we have the Denver Broncos. They do have Drew Lock. I think that he's a great upcoming quarterback. I don't know if that's what they need. I don't know if he's going to. I'm sorry, I said great. I meant good. I don't know if he's gonna have what it takes to take this team above and beyond. Definitely having Cam Newton to not only challenge him for the spot, but also give him the edge and maybe spark some competition. That way he can become better than what he already was. He did pretty good last season with the Broncos. I think that Cam Newton should definitely be a possibility. I don't think it's likely that he's going to go to the Broncos. They already going forward Drew Lock, but it would definitely make a lot of sense if they brought him in, especially on a team-friendly deal. He has been injured for a couple years. Maybe put some competition, just like John Gruden put with Marcus Mariota. Signing Marcus Mariota, even though you have Derek Carr, definitely going to spark some competition. Definitely going to put let the team know, let the quarterback know, hey, you better step up or you will be replaced. So it's something, maybe they shouldn't, because he's a young quarterback. Maybe they shouldn't put that much pressure on him. Derek Carr is understandable. He's already been there. He's kind of a veteran, and in the newly Las Vegas Raiders. So definitely something to keep in mind. But I think that the Denver Broncos should absolutely look into the option. I would not blame them if they didn't get him at all. It's just a thought. The Indianapolis Colts. I know they just signed their quarterback from the Chargers. And, Phillip Rivers has been pretty good. Last season, he definitely took a dive in his stats and his performance, and his interceptions definitely took an uprise. It's definitely something to keep in mind. They signed him 1 year, $25 million. I think Cam Newton would have been a better fit. I think the Phillip Rivers is going to be carried by the Indianapolis Colts. So having a quarterback in the back as a backup, resting, taking his time, learning from Phillip Rivers, who's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in all time, absolutely top 15 possibly. Teaching Cam Newton, even though Phillip Rivers does have an unorthodox way of throwing the ball, definitely teaching Cam Newton how to see the ball, how to see the game, how to throw the ball. Definitely it would improve his accuracy. Obviously, Phillip Rivers would have to be kind of an open book to Cam Newton. I don't know if he would, definitely because he's his competition, but definitely something to keep in mind. If the Indianapolis Colts want a backup who has the potential to not only surpass the starter, but being a great quarterback again, they should absolutely get Cam Newton, make him rest for a year, take some reps, learn from Phillip Rivers, and then move on from there. They have a great offensive juggernauts in the offensive line. Their defense is pretty good. They have some studs on wide receivers. They have a good running back. Definitely something to keep in mind. I think that Phillip Rivers is going to be carried by the team. I just hope he does not lose games for the Indianapolis Colts like he did for the Chargers. Obviously, Chargers had one of the worst offensive lines, so definitely going to be an upgrade in offensive line. So definitely excited and kind of wary to see how Phillip Rivers turns the tide in his performance when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts. Because if he starts losing games, I know there's a lot of Indianapolis Colts fans out there who are not very excited about having Phillip Rivers. I wouldn't be either. Seeing his last season performance, which was horrible, he had weapons on the outside. He had 2 great running backs. Definitely something to be wary of. I just don't know if he still has what it takes to be a good quarterback, not even a great quarterback by far. So having Cam Newton in the background, learning, waiting for that moment to surpass Phillip Rivers, I think that would be an amazing transition from Phillip Rivers to Cam Newton with the knowledge that he gains. Obviously, he has to come with a team-friendly deal because, Phillip Rivers just got $25 million. So it's definitely interesting to have. I don't think the Colts are going to do it. I think they're going to try to wait, maybe go into in the draft, but definitely think that Cam Newton would make a great fit for the Indianapolis Colts. Next up, we have the Chargers. I know they have Tyrod Taylor. I think he likes his name to be pronounced Tyrod. I'm going to go with Tyrod. No offense. If you're listening, I hope you guys are listening. I hope you're listening to my podcast. If you are, reach out and hit me up and anything like that. I really doubt it, but you never know. I think the Chargers would make a lot of sense if they beefed up their offensive line. I don't see the way that the Chargers would make a lot of sense for Cam Newton. Now, Cam Newton to the Chargers makes a lot of sense for the Chargers, but for Cam Newton, if you know that you have not been the same quarterback for a while, if you know that you got injured, you know that your body has taken a lot of hits, taken a lot of punishments, why would you submit yourself? Even though they have great wide receivers, they have a good defense, why would you submit yourself to the punishment of having that horrible offensive line up, ahead of yourself? I think that the Chargers will make a great fit, and that I feel like that's one of the reasons why Tom Brady didn't go there. It's because you see the offensive line. Now, obviously, Tampa Bay does not have an amazing offensive line, but I feel like they have an above-average offensive line. So it made a lot more sense going to Tampa Bay for Tom Brady than it did for the Chargers, and they still have weapons on the outside as well. So I feel like Tampa Bay would have made a great fit for Cam Newton. You keep a quarterback like that in the backfield, and you just see him progress, and if you see that he's ready, he goes into the game. But for the Chargers, when you do realize that you have a bad offensive line, you have to make concessions that you need to beef it up in the first place. But quarterbacks are not going to want to play for a bad offensive line. That's just simple fact. So if you are the Chargers, if you beef up your offensive line, I think it would make a great fit with Cam Newton. You have studs on the outside. You have Austin Eckler. You signed him to a deal recently, so you locked them down. I think that would make a great fit. But overall, the offensive line is definitely something to be wary of. Especially even the Chargers. If you bring in Cam Newton and he gets hurt, you just paid him a bunch load of money, and you still back with Tyrod Taylor in the starting lineup because Cam Newton got hurt, because your offensive line wasn't able to keep him safe and healthy. So the Chargers are a maybe. If they beef up the offensive line, I think that they absolutely should. Now, if Cam Newton gets 100% healthy or even 90% healthy and he can remain healthy even with despite the offensive line, I think the Chargers make a great fit. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins. Now, this is kind of tricky. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick. They do have him on a very friendly deal, team-friendly deal. And they have the number 5 overall pick. Now, the latest drafts, they're saying that Tua will go to the Miami Dolphins. Do they want him? I absolutely believe that they do. But when you have Cam Newton, who's as of this point injury prone and injured, and then you transition that from to Tua, who's also kind of injury prone of what we've seen in the college games, and injured, I think that is a ticking time bomb. Now, the only thing you have to see is who will make it back more to what their original state was. We haven't seen Tua in the NFL. We don't know if he's going to be great. He is a lot younger than Cam Newton. Cam Newton is still in the prime of his age, prime of his career. So, who can make it back to his prime would be the biggest question for the Miami Dolphins. Now, should they take Tua over Cam Newton? Absolutely. At this point, yes, I absolutely believe that because you have the greater upside with Tua. But would they make sense to get Cam Newton? Absolutely. They need a lot of players on their team. They lost a lot. They gained a lot. Definitely something to look into when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. But I feel like they're just going to go with Tua. Definitely something that they should look into. But I don't think so. I think they're just going to go with Tua. And, he's not. Cam Newton is not going to be in the Miami Dolphin uniform. Would he be a great transition from Tua to Tua? I think so. I think Tua can learn a lot from Cam Newton and overall, but I think that Miami Dolphins is going to pass on the option to get Cam Newton. They're going to stick with Ryan Fitzpatrick and then transition into Tua a little bit later. Next, we have the New England Patriots. I don't see this happening at all. I don't think that Bill Belichick would want a running quarterback. I could be wrong, completely wrong, by the way. But would he make a great fit there? I don't think so. I don't think Bill Belichick realizes the magnitude of help that he receives having Tom Brady on his team. And I think he's going to be very noticeable in this season, upcoming season, and the upcoming seasons after those. If he gets Cam Newton, I don't believe that he has what it takes to make the throws that are necessary to win the games. He used to win by his legs. I don't know if he can. If he starts trying to run again, he's probably going to get hurt again. So it's definitely something to be wary of, and that's why that's why he is a free agent, because he doesn't seem to have what it takes to win again. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. I hope I'm wrong. I want to see Cam Newton out on the field. I want to see him winning, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. So I don't think the Patriots would go for him. I think that for the Patriots, I think Jameis Winston is definitely a better option. Bill Belichick does not like turnovers. He doesn't like turnovers, and that's something that Tom Brady, even in his worst statistical season, never did. Last season, he had a horrible season, horrible offensive weapons, and he only turned the ball over 8 times. Compared to 30, that is a huge major jump. So I don't know if the Patriots are like either one of those two. I think that they should absolutely take a chance on them, but I don't think that Bill Belichick will. So I don't see that happening, but I still think that it's something that they should absolutely look into. They don't have a good quarterback right now. They have Jarrett Stidham. He did pretty good. I mean, in the preseason, they benched him for Tom Brady, so it's definitely something to be wary of. Maybe he made some uptrends during the offseason, during the practice, during the season. We don't know that. We're not going to be able to see that until this upcoming season. So definitely something to look into for the Patriots. If they pick up Cam Newton or Jameis Winston, I think that they won't regret it at all. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints, and I know it's probably not going to happen by any measures, but they did just lose Teddy Bridgewater to the Carolina Panthers. They have Drew Brees. He has been really declining towards the end of the season. Now, in the past few years, he has really been declining towards the end of the season. He has not been he has not had what it takes to win in the playoffs these past 2 seasons. Regardless of you can blame the controversial hit, you can blame a lot of things. The pass interference that was never called on the last play for Kirk Cousins, but overall, Drew Brees had absolutely every chance to win those games, and he just didn't. So it's definitely interesting to see what they will do with him. I hope he continues to play great. He's one of my greatest heroes. I really look up to Drew Brees. I grew up watching Drew Brees play. So will he come back to be form, or will he continue to progress into the old age and not play as well? That's something that the Saints should definitely be wary of. So if you have Drew Brees, one of the most accurate passers in the NFL ever, you can definitely bring in either Jameis Winston or Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton would be a better option right now, but Jameis, especially with his health, it's definitely something brings him up over Cam Newton, except for the interceptions. That's another problem. So I think that the Saints should absolutely look into the future. Jameis Winston is pretty young. Cam Newton is around 30, in the 30s, early 30s. So he's definitely something to upgrade to. He would definitely learn a lot from Drew Brees. So would he be willing to sit in the back, learn from Drew Brees, and, make that transition from the Drew Brees to Cam Newton? I think that the Saints would be very intelligent to, start looking to the future. Obviously, you can draft a quarterback. You can see many projects, because that's what these players are. Jameis Winston, Cam Newton, these are definitely projects. So if you have the time, if you have the necessary attention that you are going to give these projects, they should absolutely go for it. I've heard nothing bad about Drew Brees. He's a great leader. Would he take Cam Newton or Jameis Winston to his wing? I do believe so. But it's definitely something to look into. So having, the Saints picking up Cam Newton would make a lot of sense. Next up, finally, we have the Steelers. I know Big Ben Roethlisberger signed a major contract 2 years ago, I believe. The Steelers really messed up. He did miss last season. Even the season before, when he still had Antonio Brown, things were not looking up. He threw a lot of interceptions. He lost a lot of games, and he just overall is not the good quarterback that we used to see him in the early years. Not early years, because in the early years he wasn't really much of a throwing quarterback. He kind of got carried to the Super Bowl. That's a topic for another day. If you guys agree, let me know on Instagram and stuff like that. But overall, I think that Big Ben Roethlisberger, his contract ends up this year. The team has another option next year to keep him. I don't think they're going to keep him. They shouldn't keep him. I hope they don't keep him because I want to see the Steelers go back to being the key franchise in the NFL, one of the key franchises in the NFL. So it's definitely something to look into. He's going to cost $23 million on the cap. So if you get, if you can get Cam Newton for a team-friendly deal, I think they should absolutely take a look at Cam Newton or Jameis Winston, of course, and just start planning for the future. These two are good quarterbacks. Cam Newton was a great quarterback in 2015, so he has progressed a lot. So seeing if he can be healthy would definitely not only bump up the competition in Pittsburgh, but definitely still have the option to move on from Big Ben Roethlisberger, even though it will cause some pain in the Steelers franchise. So definitely something to look into if you're a Steelers, organization. Definitely something to look into going into the future. I see the kind of like the same Drew Brees situation, even though Drew Brees is a little bit older than Big Ben Roethlisberger. He hasn't been the same. He just got injured. He's coming back from a season-ending injury. Definitely interesting to see how he plays. But having that backup would definitely be an improvement for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, I just have to bring this in. We have the Cowboys making some moves. They just signed Blake Bell to a 1-year deal. If you guys don't know him, he's a huge man, 6'6". I believe he's 251, somewhere around there. He's a tight end. He's a blocking tight end, so that's definitely going to improve their offensive line, offensive efficiency. They are a running team, regardless of what everybody wants to say that it's a Dak-friendly team. It's really not. It's a run team, run-first team. We saw what it takes. If you put the ball in Dak's hand, he does not deliver. We saw that last season. I believe he was like 1-8, 1-6 against winning teams, above 500 teams. So it's definitely something to look into. They needed this. They just lost Jason Witten, who was a tremendous blocker. He went to the Las Vegas Raiders. So bringing in Blake Bell, I think he's not going to make a huge difference, but I think he's definitely going to make a significant difference because they just lost Travis Frederick as well. I'll get more into that a little bit later, but signing Blake Bell does not turn the tides, but definitely just adds some security for Dak Prescott, for Ezekiel Elliott, and I think it's a great deal. They also signed Blake Jarwin to a deal. I think it's 3 years, $24 million, or 4 years, $24 million, somewhere around there. I think he's a great addition. Well, not addition, but great player to keep on their team like they are. So I think that's definitely something to look forward to. I don't think that the Cowboys are going to make a big splash. They have not yet so far. I mean, they've signed Gerald McCoy, 3 year, $18 million. We have to see what he comes out to be. He played for the Panthers earlier, and he had a pretty good season. Not the best, not the worst. So seeing, what he's going to bring to the Cowboys, hopefully it's a lot. I don't think he will. They just signed Dontari Poe as of today. But he didn't have he is coming from a season-ending torn quadriceps. So seeing how he returns and seeing the impact that he does for the defense, definitely something to have an eye on. But I don't see the Cowboys making the playoffs overall. I think that the Eagles are definitely a big contender. Basically, I'm expecting to see the same team from last season. I don't see anything different. I mean, they did bring in Mike McCarthy. I hope he can do something to boost over the edge. But he does make it to the playoffs, but he's only made one Super Bowl. So it's definitely something to look into. I don't see him making the difference that it will take to go into the playoffs. Hopefully I'm wrong. I want to see the Cowboys. They deserve to win. I'm from Dallas. At this point, I think it's absolutely necessary. I don't care if Jerry Jones has to pay off the refs or anything like that, but it's 25 years since we've won anything. About 25 years. I think it's time for us we deserve a Super Bowl. And by we, I mean the whole Dallas community. You haven't seen a bigger fan base, and we just see mediocre teams put out on the field every single season. And it's not fair to the people. It's not fair to the fans. It's definitely fair for the people who are rooting against the Cowboys. I give you that. They have been right for the last the last 25 years. So it's definitely something that the Cowboys should absolutely turn the tide. I don't think that Dak Prescott is the answer by any measures. So seeing him on a franchise deal. He's going to be more precarious and cautious about his moves, about the big hits that he did take before for the Cowboys. I don't think he's going to be taking them sooner this upcoming season. So it's definitely something to look into. I think he's walking on eggshells right now. Jerry Jones is very unpleased on how much money he's asking for. I think $30 million is a little bit too much for Dak Prescott. I think that he should be paid 25, 20, somewhere around there. I don't think that he deserves the money that he's going to get. I think he's definitely up for it. I think any team that he's gonna go to in the future, I think they would happily give him that $30 million, because I think that he's better than most quarterbacks in the NFL as of right now. I mean, he's better. He's better than half by far. He's better than Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill just signed a huge contract with the Tennessee Titans, and he threw for 16 total passes in 2 playoff games. I don't see what's happening there, but I think the Tennessee Titans made a big mistake. I'm hoping that the Cowboys, regroup, find a quarterback that they can go for. Cam Newton and Jameis Winston are out there. I don't think they're the answer by any measures, but I think they have more upside than Dak Prescott does, because I see him just average. He's been average for the past 4 years, and I see him continuing to be average and not having what it takes. Could he prove me wrong? Absolutely, he can prove me wrong, and I hope he does. Once again, I'm from Dallas. I want to see them win. But he's getting too much hype, and he's getting too much money for the power. Not too much money, because he hasn't been paid. That I'm not for. I'm definitely against that. He's been paid, I think, total like $5 million over the past 4 years. That's unacceptable for the NFL. If you see your marquee player, franchise quarterback, getting paid more, like $4 million, I see running backs getting paid that. I see, wide receivers, cornerbacks. I see a lot of players, and you paying that to the quarterback. It's not fair. He deserves his money that he won, but I think it would be a mistake for the Dallas Cowboys. So definitely something to look into. I think that they're just going to be regular, average, and with the whole Travis Frederick thing, he just retired. He was coming on that immune system disease. I wish him the best. I wish him to, there's been other players who's had that disease. They've come back. It took them around 2 years. He has played a year, a year removed since. So hopefully, it's a temporary retired. He's a great center. I think he could possibly make it to the Hall of Fame if he continues in the trajectory that he's making it to be. But definitely affects the whole Dallas Cowboy roster, losing him as a center. I think that's going to affect Ezekiel Elliott. I think that's going to affect Dak Prescott. I don't know if they're going to find the replacement adequate enough to give you the same amount of talent and amazingness at the center position. I hope they do, but I definitely think that's a huge loss for the Dallas Cowboys. So seeing how they come back from that, definitely interested to see. I don't think they're going to make it by far, and they just lost Travis Frederick, so I don't know. But I don't think they're going to make it far. I don't even believe that they're in the playoffs this season. Hopefully I'm wrong, but definitely something to keep an eye on. Next up, we have Tyler Eifert to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Talk about polarizing opinions. I don't know what to feel about this signing. I think when healthy, he's definitely a top 15, top 10 tight end. But he hasn't been healthy for a long time. He's definitely injury prone. The Cincinnati Bengals are moving on for him for a reason. He was a first-round pick. I hope he turns great. I hope that he stays healthy. He's still relatively young. I think that he has a lot of potential upside and forward. I know that the Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to surround Gardner Minshew with a lot of talent around him to make him better, to make him take the next step as an NFL quarterback. They just got rid of Nick Foles, so there's no more competition for Gardner Minshew. I hope that Tyler Eifert goes back to being at least 80% of what he was, 90% of what he was when he was healthy. I just don't know if he will be healthy. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't know. I'm rooting for him to be a great tight end again, or to become the great tight end that he's destined to be. I just don't know if he's going to remain healthy or going to be as healthy that he should be. I hope he does. Once again, I really hope that he does, and I just don't know. I don't think this is a great signing. I think this is definitely a good signing. It's always good to have potentially great players on your team. Hopefully he reaches that potential and doesn't fall short like he did in Cincinnati. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Not anything amazing. I hope him the best. We have Robbie Anderson going to the Carolina Panthers. I think this was a great signing. I think that the Jets definitely lost a huge playmaker for them, and definitely a tool for Sam Darnold to continue playing. And I'm not calling Robbie Anderson a tool, but I'm just saying that as in a quarterback who you have, a young quarterback, who has a lot of trajectory upward, who has a lot of potential. You keep on taking pieces away from him. I don't think that he's ever going to reach the potential that he was destined to be pre-draft, during draft, and after draft. So definitely something to keep an eye on with the Jets. If they don't replace Robbie Anderson with anybody good, I think that's definitely going to cause Sam Darnold to definitely take a dive in his stats and his performance and his overall trajectory. I hope him the best, but I just don't see him now for the Panthers. I think this is a great addition. They have DJ Moore. They have now Robbie Anderson, so having those two on the outside, definitely something that will help Teddy Bridgewater and the new PJ Tucker, I think. PJ, somewhere around there. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. But you know what I'm saying. I hope he does continue to be great. And I think that's a huge addition for the Panthers. I think that they needed wide receivers. I think that they still need, they have Christian McCaffrey. They need to beef up that offensive line. It's pretty good, not the best. So definitely need to beef up the offensive line, and definitely need to beef up the defense. They lost, Dontari Poe, and they lost Gerald McCoy to the Cowboys. Definitely interesting to see how they play off from that and continue to add to their defense. I don't know. I think that the Carolina Panthers are not going to be a contender. They have Tom Brady and the Buccaneers now. The Saints are definitely adding up to their team. They're bulking up. And they have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who just signed Tyler Eifert, and they have Gardner Minshew, who they're moving on forward to. Definitely something to look into. I think that Carolina Panthers are probably the worst team in their division. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Definitely want to see the Carolina Panthers move on. They just signed the Baylor head coach. I don't know how he's going to do. I hope he does great. But I just think that they're probably the worst team in their division, especially with the Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers. So, they don't have the defensive machine of, Jameis Winston still throwing picks for the Buccaneers. So that's definitely an increase automatically. So it's definitely see how they work from that. But I think that this was a big deal for the Panthers. And last topic, I just want to get it out there. I talked about all these teams. I want to talk about Devontae Freeman. I was rooting for Todd Gurley to go to the Buccaneers. Fortunately, he didn't. Went to the Falcons, 1-year deal. I was also rooting for Melvin Gordon to go to the Buccaneers. He unfortunately went to the Denver Broncos, 2-year deal. I'm hoping that Devontae Freeman can be 80%, 90% of what he was. We just lost. The Buccaneers. They just lost the running back Barber. I believe he went to the Washington Redskins. I think that's something that Tom Brady absolutely needs. Not needs, but definitely wants, and definitely would help him to have a good running back in the backfield who could just hand it off and take some pressure off the offensive and defensive pressures. So I think, Devontae Freeman is a free agent as of right now. I know that the Lions are definitely looking into him. I think that the Lions don't need him as much as the Buccaneers do, but I feel like he would be a good addition, especially to the Lions. They have a really good backfield, all those players in the key players in the backfield. So I feel like the Lions don't really need him. I know that they're talking about getting him. He would be a good addition. I just believe that the Buccaneers would absolutely benefit more from having Devontae Freeman going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Definitely would put the Buccaneers over the edge. They need a running back, and they need to beef up their defense. So they need to beef up a little bit of the offensive line. Definitely excited to see what they do in the draft. I'm definitely excited to see if Tom Brady proves Bill Belichick wrong. That's going to be another topic for another day. Yeah, that's all I have for today, guys. It's Beyond the Stats here. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Remember, stay safe, stay clean, and I will see you guys in the future for tomorrow's podcast episode.